So, Joshua versus Parker has come and gone. More questions than answers, most likely. But yeah, I guess that's what happens after every big fight. So, obviously, a unification fight, and we'll talk about some of the questions maybe in this video. Probably be an extended one. I haven't been around for, goodness knows how long, and that is my fault. But what I will say is, I'm gonna try and make this regularly, and try and keep it often, and let's see where it takes us. Hopefully, we get some more growth. I noticed some people have actually jumped on as subscribers, so big thank you to those who have recently subscribed, even though I haven't been uploading anything. And yeah, I couldn't help but upload something after Ultra Tech's video, Boxing Gossip's video. Those are the two main guys in terms of breakdowns and everything boxing that I listen to fairly regularly, pretty much all the time. I watch all their videos. Maybe actually Boxing Talk with Ade as well. So yeah, two or three. I don't listen to that many, and yeah, I had to upload a video. So my kind of take on the fight is, I don't really want to be talking about the fight too much. We kind of know what's come and gone. Joshua obviously won the fight fairly convincingly, I'd say. I scored it nine rounds to three. I could understand why people had it a bit wider. I can understand why people had it a bit closer also. But I don't really want to talk about the fight because I think those two guys, Gossip and Ultratech, have kind of given a glowing reference to the fight in terms of how they've broken it down and how they've kind of analysed it in its aftermath. So I kind of want to talk about the questions going forward. Ultratech obviously touched on it, but what I will say is I have my own opinion and not afraid to dish it out as well, even though I get a fuck ton of hate, but that comes with the territory, I guess. Um, what I will say, how is Joshua gonna react from range? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. What I will say is, you know, fit Tyson Fury will give him all sorts of problems. He will give him all sorts of problems. And, obviously we have to see if, the Tyson Fury of old will come back. He looks in good shape at the moment, but, that sort of shape is not the same as fighting shape. It's like when it's game time, you need to be on your game. You need to have a few fights under your belt, even one fight under your belt, get the rust off and that sort of stuff. So, how does he deal with Fury's long range game? Fury, obviously we saw him in his last fight against Vladimir Klitschko. He boxed. He boxed beautifully for a big man actually, and he done very well. Joshua kind of struggled with the smaller man in Joseph Parker. He was missing a fuckload, to be honest. He was he was trying to throw the jab at times, missing. Parker was throwing this. I don't know if it was a rangefinder or it was a setup jab, but he was throwing this kind of flailing jab, and at times, and sometimes the jab was fairly decent. When he did commit to it, I thought it was fairly decent, but he kind of threw it out, and he was being. I think he was being a bit wily in there. I wouldn't say like you get those old wily veterans. You get those type of guys, but then you get like a Parker who was just trying to be very calculated and set up different shots if they were available. But I don't think they were forthcoming because Joshua controlled the distance fairly well. I wouldn't say it was exceptional or anything. It wasn't Vladimir Klitschko-esque, even though he's been, getting his advice, on his style and that sort of stuff. I know, but yeah, it was Joshua looked good without looking spectacular. If that makes any sense to people out there, I think he really controlled the distance at times, but then he didn't look as explosive as his earlier fights, I guess, and I thought that might be a factor with the weights, but I did pick the AJ decision. Sorry, I did pick that, and yeah, I was actually vindicated. I did think Parker had a good chin, and I thought he, some of the punches he did take, they weren't really flush punches, I'd say, from Joshua, but they were definitely, yeah, they were definitely hurtful punches from Joshua, and Parker took them, very very well actually. So Parker's 26, I think. He's got a lot of time on his side. He can come again. But how would Fury do that against him? I think Fury would try and dance around him all night. And if he's fit and he's on his game, he's a serious operator at heavyweight, regardless of the drug situation and all that other stuff. I'm not interested in that stuff. I'm interested in a fit Tyson Fury. Can he give AJ problems? Of course he can. Can he win the fight? Of course he can. Would I be picking him? Depends on how his comeback fight goes. If he has a comeback fight, when he has a comeback fight, how he looks against the person, how he does against the opponent. Does he stop him? How he looks on the scales, how his weight is. Yeah, a lot of questions with Tyson Fury, but I would personally pick Tyson Fury as a favorite in that fight. I think he gives AJ, ridiculous amount of problems. AJ from range doesn't look, he doesn't look half the fighter Tyson Fury is. Maybe even a Luis Ortiz. There's a couple other boxers, but in the heavyweight division, I think those guys are the best guys in terms of boxing skill. But yeah, I'd say Fury will give him, a lot of trouble, a lot of trouble. Deontay Wilder, obviously, he made a bit of a dickhead move. To be honest, he did come to Cardiff, and like Eddie Hearn or not, I don't like any promoter. But what I will say is, he's got his head screwed on, and if he was managing Wilder, Wilder would be a much richer man than he already is. So obviously he hasn't come to Cardiff. He's missed out on a lot of press, a lot of publicity. Could have made it easy work. He could have made probably a lot more money in the Joshua fight, but yeah, he's decided not to come for whatever reason because of not getting in the ring. Fuck knows. I don't really give a shit. The only fight I wanted to see, and I always will want to see in the heavyweight division, is AJ versus Wilder. That has the potential to be an exciting fight, a bit of a shootout. But AJ versus Fury, I think will be a bit boring, be a bit cagey because of the style adopted by AJ in this fight. Maybe he may continue with this sort of style. Maybe he may go back to being explosive. But I do think he has the tendency to be robotic and be slow. But what the fuck do I know? I'm just sitting on my seat making a dodgy YouTube video. So yeah, people are probably thinking, "Oh fuck this guy, he's hating on Joshua," which I'm clearly not. Joshua is the number one heavyweight in the division. He's he's a really really good operator, and he's phenomenal on British boxing. And I'm from Britain, so it's good to see rise, but too many people I think are believing in the fighter, and sometimes you got to look at the fighter and you got to use your own eyes as well and look and see, if Fury's done a real job on Klitschko. I know boxing triangles don't work like that, but AJ's tried to box in his last two fights, especially against Parker in this fight, and to a slightly lesser extent to Cam. But yeah, I just think stylistically it's a bad style matchup for AJ against Tyson Fury, but Wilder I think is a better style matchup, and I'd say that's more of a 50-50 fight. I think it's 50-50, very very close. If I had to lean to someone, I'd pick Wilder. I'll be honest. I still think there's defensive gaps in AJ's game. I think AJ is, he's lost a bit of the luster with this fight. Not in a boxing fans way, but maybe with the casuals, they may have thought he's some unstoppable force or something. They're still going to tune into him, but they'd probably, not want to be watching Anthony Joshua in a against Alexander Povetkin or Jarrell Miller or something like that, in the next fight, they'd probably be thinking, we want to see the Wilders, we want to see the Furies. And that's casuals would think that because their name has been bandied around so much. Who's going to be, who wants to pay 20 quid a pop, to see Anthony Joshua versus Jarrell Miller? Like, let's be serious, Boxing fans will love that fight, don't get me wrong. I'd love that fight. But casuals will probably be like, well, we've had all these big fights. We've had this, we were supposed to have the Pulev fight, which is, Pulev is not a big name or anything like that, but they made it out that he was this top fighter, and he's only lost to Klitschko, the Sky Hype machine, which I'll come on to after. So they're not going to be wanting to pay 20 quid a pop, but I guess that's that's the nature of the game, really. Joshua will be popular ever, but popular forever, to be honest. But at this rate, but what I will say is, casuals aren't going to be wanting to spend their hard-earned money on Anthony Joshua versus Jarrell Miller, Anthony Joshua versus, yeah, yeah. There's a lack of names in the heavyweight division that I could think, even a Derek Chisora, or imagine David Price won this weekend. Jesus, David Price is a lovely bloke. He comes across very well, but Jesus Christ, he got knocked the fuck out on Saturday, and I really, really, really was rooting for him. Me and my cousin were watching the boxing and really rooting for him, but that was a bad knockout. That was brutal, man. David Price, I think needs to pack it in after that. That was a knockout that I think you don't come back from. You struggle to come back from. But yeah, I'm digressing, going off in loads of different directions because I haven't been on YouTube for a while, so it's a bit of a rant most likely. Wilder. I'm gonna pick Wilder. Go back to that. Pick Wilder only because I think there's holes in Joshua's game. He still leaves himself open. He goes back in straight lines, and I'll be honest, I wasn't really impressed with Joshua attempting to cut the ring off on Joseph Parker. I know some people put it online, but I was kind of following Parker around sometimes and pushing back to the ropes, but not really trying to unload anything, vicious and meaningful and spiteful. And Parker did, you have to give credit to Parker there. He rode some punches quite well, but Joshua normally against the ropes, he's fairly devastating, or at least in his previous fights before the Cam fight, I'd say definitely. He was devastating even against Vlad when he had him against the ropes. He was he's throwing some mean, hurtful punches, and just didn't look the same. It looked a bit flat to me. I don't know if it was just because he was trying to box, even though he came in very light, or lighter than he has recently. His lightest weight since 2014. But it's just. I just thought he looked a bit flat, and he could have done a lot better. But obviously it's a world title unification fight, world championship fight again, and yeah, he's done the job. He's done it well without looking spectacular. You know what I mean? I don't think he looked great in there, but he definitely got the job done with some ease, not. It wasn't like full ease, but he didn't look like he was troubled in there. I'd say that he just looked a bit flat to me. So that's kind of my take on Joshua Parker Wilder. Ultratech said Luis Ortiz to maybe cause AJ some problems. I go some way to agree with that. I think he eventually gets stopped. Luis Ortiz is like 65 years old or something like that. Fuck knows how old that guy is. But he definitely caused some real world problems to AJ. He's a southpaw. His footwork is quite good, which AJ's footwork isn't that good. Lateral movement as well, head movement. He's as a if he's trying to box, I think he's throwing out a jab, which is is a very strong jab. But it's not like a one you can move off, He sets his feet and he pushes the jab out. And, he can learn something from Vlad. He's obviously consulting Vlad and getting his advice. But I think if he sparred again, or, Vlad came down to the gym or something like that and gave him some real pointers, it would make a big difference because his footwork is almost non-existent there. Sometimes it's, I know that expression, your feet are on cement. And that's probably the right phrase to use for AJ at times. He looks very, very, very static, very heavy, very robotic. So that's what I will say. But Luis Ortiz could give him some problems. I think he'd eventually get stopped just because Joshua may overwhelm him with with a bit of just youth, hunger, big game experience also as well. Luis Ortiz's his biggest fight probably, apart from anything in the amateurs, has been the Deontay Wilder fight. And Wilder hits. Wilder's probably the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division. I'll be honest. He hits like a freight train. He hits like an absolute train, mate. So yeah, I will say that he's probably the biggest puncher, and he held up to his punches fairly well. But I think Joshua may, he just may throw a barrage of punches and kind of tire Luis Ortiz out. But Ortiz has a fairly decent chin, so yeah, I picked Joshua, but I wouldn't say that's the most confident pick. Even though people say, well, Joshua's done this and Ortiz has done this and that, but that's all up for debate, and that's a reason why I guess I'm making this video, and people people fucking hate me, but yeah, who cares? Who cares? Uh, that's even better if people hate me. Yeah, what I will say is, yeah, Ortiz can still give people problems in the heavyweight division. Povetkin's supposed to be mandatory, I think, in two governing bodies, WBO and WBA. So that's a potential fight next. Maybe casuals may tune into that a bit more after the back of the Povetkin Price fight. That was a bit exciting, and the devastating KO. So they may be more interested in that fight than the like a Jarrell Miller fight that's been mooted for potential stateside debut. So yeah, I guess we see everything's fucking up in the air. So we'll just see where it goes. Really, to be honest. What else? I want to say a few things just on the card, and then I'll talk about the undercard and bits and pieces of news, I guess. What I will say is, the undercard was very underwhelming. It was very, very, very disappointing. I'll be honest, I'll just come out and say it was shit. It was shit. Apart from Price-Povetkin, I think every single fight failed to catch any sort of fire. That's not to say there weren't like performances, one or two good performances on the card, but it was just boring as fuck, man. I was sitting there with my cousin. We were on our phones half the time, and it was just, yeah, I was pretty bored of it, to be honest. Buatsi looked pretty good. He went the distance. I've seen a few bits and pieces of stuff on Buatsi and news, and just people have an opinion on him, especially being on recent shows, and he's been looking good. He's a very, very good fighter. I think he's very, very solid. He's one of the best UK prospects we have, 110%. But I just think he's a bit small for light heavy. I do think he's a bit small. I think he's stuck in between divisions. I think his frame is probably not, he can't make super middleweight. Maybe that's why he does light heavy. But, you know, he's not big enough to be a light heavyweight in terms of height and stature. So it's a bit difficult. It's a bit difficult with Buatsi, but I think he's a very, very good fighter. And I'll be honest, I think he's ready for the guys like Anthony Yarde, guys like Callum Johnson. He's ready for those sort of guys. Frank Buglioni, he would beat up Frank Buglioni bad, I think. And I was vindicated in picking Johnson in that fight against Frank Buglioni. So I'll just give myself a bit of credit there. 2 weeks in a row, not too bad. And I think he's ready for those guys. He's really good. Obviously, I know he's not beaten anyone of note, but obviously he's come off the Rio Olympics in 2016, and he's ticked over well, and he's transitioned to the program fairly well as well. He looks very, very good, very solid. He's a devastating body puncher, and I don't mean devastating like he knocks people out or anything like that, but he throws it very, very well, and he can hurt people to the body. Definitely, he throws it. His timing, his accuracy, his judgment of range. He's a very, very smart fighter, as well as having speed and that sort of stuff. Very well schooled, very well educated, and yeah, I give him a good chance against some of the British guys at 175. Although I do think he would be better suited at super middleweight. He'd be one of the better super middleweights in the domestic scene. As of right now, I think. But there are some good guys. John Ryder and Jamie Cox are fighting. So there are some good fighters, and I mean, I think he's fundamentally better than those guys. But they're good style matches for him. Buatsi versus Cox, Buatsi versus Eubank Jr. Those guys, if those fights can get made, yeah, sign me up for them. Yeah, who else? Who else fought on the card? Burnett, Burnett looked, yeah. Wasn't really interested in that fight. He did what he needed to do. He's dropped one of his world titles, and yeah, maybe a fight against Inoue, McDonald winner. That would be a good fight for him. I think I think I think he'd like that fight. A bit more money in that fight if McDonald wins. But maybe Paul Butler. Paul Butler might fight for one of the belts. I think he's like gonna fight for the IBF bantamweight belt. But his team I think have dug Tete. Yeah, I think they've, or whether it's not him, I think it's Ryan Burnett's team have probably said let's avoid Tete and go after the other guys. They obviously picked up another version of the world title against Zakionov, who's obviously retired just recently. So he picked up another world title. Well done to him, but he's a bit uninspiring. I think he's a bit more flash at times, less substance. Josh Kelly, I think, can be guilty of that, but he had a good step up against Carlos Molina. I thought I thought he looked good, but Molina was, he was not really. I think he had like nothing left in terms of he wasn't really fighting for anything. He was there for the payday, and that was it really. So Kelly looked good without looking overly spectacular. I would like to see him in against a puncher who can box a little bit as well, and see how he reacts to shots. Molina's not a big puncher at all, so he he didn't really have to worry about too much coming back, but he dealt with it. He dealt with anything that did. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But it's a very very good step up in his fifth or sixth fight or something like that. So good step up. A couple of other guys, but I'll be honest, the undercard was a letdown. Price-Povetkin, I mean, Price, he shot himself in the foot. Maybe the time he caught Povetkin at the end of the third, I think it was, and Povetkin was staggering all over the place. He came out for the fourth Povetkin, and his legs were gone. He was still unsteady. He just you could tell he was still clearly hurt. He was dazed from that shot at the end of the round by Price. Obviously, third round they both got basically knockdowns, and fourth round he just obviously I think he was being a bit overly cautious. I thought he was a bit trying to be a bit cuter than he should have been. I thought he should have stepped on the gas. Even if he threw everything in that round, he would have ended up stopping for Povetkin. Because we know David Price is his stamina runs on empty. Come after round 4-5, he's finished. So what I will say is he should have stepped on the gas, and that fight was his to lose, and he threw it away because he tried to be overly cautious, and he didn't. I don't know if he didn't know Povetkin was still hurt, or he just he thought there was a big haymaker coming back from Povetkin, but definitely a better David Price. He's a nice guy and whatnot, but it was definitely a better David Price. But even that is not. He was eventually going to run out of that steam. That little steam that he had, he was going to run out. So he was going to run on empty. And maybe he'll come back, but I really hope after that knockout. That was a bad knockout, and I thought Povetkin looked pretty poor in this fight. He looked a bit shit. So 38 and past it. He got a big knockout against a guy who's notoriously chinny and low stamina and that sort of stuff. So he was really expected to win. I think he was expected to win a lot easier than he did. But if he fights someone like a Joshua, someone like a Wilder, I'll be picking Wilder and Joshua over Povetkin. Obviously the Wilder fight didn't happen for X amount of reasons, but I'd pick Wilder and Joshua over Povetkin, even if it was the next fight or the fight after that. Povetkin's old. He's getting on in age, and he just didn't look that good in there against a guy he should have really dominated, to be honest. But that's Price-Povetkin. As I said, the rest of the card, not great, but yeah, it comes with the territory when you have a big unification fight as the headline. Can't have the undercard stacked, I guess. Cordina looked good. I think he's actually one of the best. Another one of the best UK prospects. I think he's really really good. I would have loved to see the Townend fight. I think that was the main fight I was actually looking forward to, but obviously Townend pulled out with some sort of injury. So I hope they can get that fight signed again, and they both stay injury free and can have a good good fight, because Cordina's he's a very solid boxer. We know that obviously from the Rio Olympics and from his short pro career, but I think he he has something about him. He looks a bit gritty when the going gets tough. I think he can get going, and I think he can domestically he's a real problem for the super featherweights, that is. So he's a good fighter. I think he's a really good fighter as well. So let's see where he goes. I will say one of the main reasons I made this video as well, I just want to rant about the fucking Sky commentary, which was absolute bollocks. Absolute bollocks, mate. I could not believe some of the things I was hearing on the commentary team. They were saying Parker's felt the power. Parker's he's not throwing anything back, and I was like, well, Carl Froch, like, who are you to bloody sit on the commentary team and I have to listen to you talk absolute garbage about boxing, and you don't even know your stuff. They were giving AJ so much credit for stuff he was not doing. He was missing half his punches against Parker. Parker was riding the punches. Just because AJ won, on my card 9-3, doesn't mean he had it all his own way. Obviously, Parker's nicked a couple of rounds there. Carl Froch was an absolute embarrassment all night on the commentary team. Him and Adam Smith is one of the worst commentary pairings I've heard in watching, all my years of watching boxing. I've been watching boxing a long time, and I'm a young guy, and that is one of the worst. I'd even say Steve Bunce is better, and Steve Bunce is fucking shit. That was fucking embarrassing. That was one of the most embarrassing commentary, commentaries on boxing that I've heard in my whole time. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. And yeah, just leave me a comment in what you guys thought if you watched it on the TV and you ordered the pay-per-view. So just let me know. Yeah, it was terrible. They were. I'm gonna leave it at that, because I could go on and on about it, and I don't know how these guys get paid to watch boxing for a living, because they're awful. They really are terrible, absolutely terrible. But yeah, that's kind of my rant on the Joshua Parker pay-per-view, and how how I found it. How I found it on a scale of 1 to 10, shit. There you go. that was what everyone wanted to hear, I think. But yeah, nothing else to really note of. Robbie Davis Jr., I think he got a win in the rematch with the guy Sirawatka, I think his name was. He said he won his belt back. I think he stopped the guy, dropped him twice or something like that. There was one or two other bits of boxing, but I didn't really get around to seeing it. But just been busy, and yeah, so I just thought I'd make this video and get something out there. Be active, I guess. I'm just been busy, and so much stuff going on. Might as well get something out for the boxing fans. And I know there's a few people who have jumped on, and people have asked me if I'm gonna continue doing it and that sort of stuff. So I thought I'd bring something out and show I'm still here, still living, and yeah, hope everyone has enjoyed it. Please let me know comments on the Joshua Parker card. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Nothing else really to add, really. Just just here, have a chat with me. Put your comments in the comment section. Please leave a like, and just share it, and get this out there. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Be greatly appreciated. Shout out to all New Zealand fans. You guys are awesome. I have one or two on my channel, but you guys are awesome. Your guy, he's done what he needed to do. He'll come again, though. Joseph Parker will come again, and best of luck to him, consummate pro. And yeah, hopefully we can get some more Kiwis on board as well. Yeah, I'm going to call it quits there. About half an hour. Hope you guys enjoyed, and catch up soon. Peace.